Sarah Chen never planned to fall in love with Marcus Sterling during that chaotic indie film shoot in Vancouver. The autumn rain had been relentless, turning the outdoor sets into muddy disasters and threatening to shut down production entirely. As the script supervisor, Sarah had already pulled off several miracles that week, reorganizing the shooting schedule around the weather and rewriting scenes to make use of the atmospheric downpour, rather than fighting against it. Marcus was different from the other actors she'd worked with over her decade in the industry. While his co-stars complained about the conditions and demanded schedule changes, he stayed late helping the crew cover equipment and brainstorming alternative locations with Sarah. She noticed how he brought coffee to the camera operators during early morning shoots and remembered every crew member's name, not because he was trying to prove anything, but because he genuinely cared. Their love story began in the most unassuming way, a shared umbrella and a missing script page. Sarah had been rushing through the rain after a particularly challenging production meeting when her carefully organized script pages scattered in the wind. Marcus, emerging from his trailer, immediately jumped in to help. They ended up spending 3 hours in a nearby cafe, not just reorganizing the pages, but completely reworking the scene to give it more emotional depth. "You see things others miss," he told her that night, rain drumming against the cafe windows. "You don't just fix problems, you turn them into opportunities." The way he looked at her then, with genuine admiration, rather than Hollywood's usual superficial charm, made her heart skip a beat. Their relationship developed in stolen moments between takes, script discussions that turned into philosophical debates, late-night production meetings that evolved into shared dreams over takeout dinners, and quiet conversations in the hair and makeup trailer before anyone else arrived on set. Sarah fell in love with Marcus's dedication to his craft, his kindness toward others, and his ability to make her laugh even during the most stressful moments. The film wrapped just as Marcus received life-changing news. He'd been cast as the lead in Imperial Rising, a big-budget studio film that his agent promised would make him a household name. The night he got the call, he surprised Sarah by taking her to the lighthouse where they'd filmed one of the movie's pivotal scenes. With the Pacific Ocean crashing below and a full moon above, he proposed, not with a flashy diamond, but with his grandmother's vintage sapphire ring. Their wedding followed a week later, an intimate ceremony at midnight in a historic Malibu chapel. The only witnesses were the chapel's elderly caretaker and his wife, who cried through the entire ceremony. Sarah wore a simple cream-colored dress she'd found in a vintage shop, and Marcus wore the same leather jacket he'd had on the night they met. It was perfect in its simplicity, in its truth. The morning after their wedding, reality crashed in like a tidal wave. Marcus's agent called in a panic about rumors of the ceremony. "A secret marriage right before your big break. The studio will see it as a liability," the agent warned. "They're marketing you as Hollywood's next leading man, the ultimate eligible bachelor. This could breach your contract." Sarah watched as fear crept into Marcus's eyes. His dream role, the opportunity he'd worked towards for years, was suddenly at risk. When he turned to her, his voice trembling, and asked if they could keep their marriage private until after the film's release, she agreed. It seemed reasonable at the time, just a few months of discretion to protect something they'd both worked so hard for. "It's not forever," Marcus promised, kissing her forehead. "Just until I'm established enough to weather any publicity storm. Then we'll tell the whole world our story." Sarah slipped the sapphire ring onto a delicate silver chain, hanging it around her neck where it rested close to her heart. She didn't realize then that she was also hanging up her identity, her truth, and her future, all for a promise that would take 3 years to break her. While Marcus transformed into Hollywood's golden boy, Sarah orchestrated his rise from the shadows with the precision of a master puppeteer. Her official title was personal assistant, but industry insiders knew better. They called her the wizard in hushed conversations at private parties, the mysterious force behind Marcus Sterling's meteoric success. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah that her greatest performance wasn't in front of the cameras, but in pretending to be nothing more than an efficient assistant. She wore her wedding ring on a chain beneath designer blazers at red carpet events, the sapphire pressing against her skin like a constant reminder of her compromise. During these events, she'd watch her husband charm reporters and pose with starlets while she coordinated with security, managed press, and ensured everything ran smoothly. "Sarah, you're a miracle worker," Marcus's agent, David, told her one evening after she'd salvaged a nearly disastrous press conference. A tabloid had almost published photos of Marcus leaving her apartment late at night. She'd managed to spin it into a story about late-night script preparations for his upcoming film. "I don't know how you do it," David added, not knowing that each cover-up carved another small crack in her heart. Her days became an elaborate dance of deception. She'd arrive at industry meetings, separately from Marcus, sitting at the far end of conference tables while major decisions about his career were made. Studio executives would talk about Marcus's bachelor appeal right in front of her, never suspecting that the quiet woman taking notes was actually his wife. Sarah became so good at maintaining their facade that even Marcus's personal makeup artist, who saw him daily, once tried to set them up on a date. The true test of her resolve came during the Imperial Rising press tour. The studio had orchestrated a publicity campaign painting Marcus as Hollywood's most eligible bachelor, complete with carefully staged paparazzi photos of him at exclusive restaurants with various actresses. Sarah had to approve each photo, each staged date, each fictional romance rumor. She remembered sitting in their home office late one night, staring at photos of her husband pretending to be intimate with his co-star over candlelight. "It's just for show," Marcus had assured her, massaging her tense shoulders as she reviewed the images. "Everyone in this industry knows it's all fake." But the thing about lies, Sarah was learning, was that they had a way of seeping into reality's cracks. She noticed how Marcus began to enjoy the attention, how he'd linger a little longer with his dates, even after the photographers had gone. The breaking point almost came during the film's Tokyo premiere. Sarah had spent weeks coordinating the event, ensuring every detail was perfect. As she stood in the wings watching Marcus work the red carpet, a Japanese reporter approached her with a knowing smile. "You must be very proud," the reporter said in perfect English, her eyes dropping to the chain around Sarah's neck. "Don't worry, some of us remember the real story from Vancouver." For a moment, Sarah's carefully constructed world tilted on its axis. But instead of relief at being recognized, she felt panic. She'd become so entrenched in the lie that the truth felt like a threat. That night, she added another layer to her disguise, replacing the chain holding her wedding ring with a simple pendant that told no stories. The industry began to whisper about the sterling standard, the incredible level of professionalism and preparation that followed Marcus wherever he went. Studio heads fought to cast him not just for his talent, but for the seamless production experience he guaranteed. Few realized this standard was actually Sarah's touch, her attention to detail, her ability to anticipate problems, her talent for turning potential disasters into opportunities for positive publicity. But with each success, each magazine cover celebrating Marcus's single status, each award show where she stood in the background clapping for her husband's achievements, Sarah felt herself fading. The woman who had once danced in the rain with a struggling actor who had said her vows under starlight was disappearing behind the powerful facade of Marcus Sterling's perfect personal assistant. The cracks in Sarah's carefully maintained facade began to show during the filming of Dynasty of Dreams, Marcus's most ambitious project to date. The signs were subtle at first: a missed good morning text, dinner plans repeatedly postponed, the growing distance in his eyes when they were alone. But it was the magazine cover that truly began the unraveling. Sarah discovered it during her morning media review. Marcus and his co-star, Victoria Lane, wrapped in an intimate embrace for Entertainment Weekly's Hollywood's Hottest Couples issue. Her hands trembled as she read the accompanying article, which detailed the undeniable on-set chemistry and secret dating history. This wasn't the usual promotional fluff. This was different. The quotes were too specific, the details too intimate. When she confronted Marcus's publicist, Jack Morrison, his response cut deep. "Oh, that. Marcus approved it last week, said it would help build buzz for the movie." He paused, noticing her pale face. "Hey, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." She hadn't just seen a ghost, she was becoming one. That same week, Sarah received news that should have been cause for celebration. The Film Production Guild was honoring her with their Lifetime Achievement Award for contributions to the industry. It was unprecedented for someone her age, recognition for years of innovative problem-solving and production excellence. The irony wasn't lost on her that she'd earned this acclaim while being professionally invisible. The awards ceremony fell on the same night as a high-profile dating show when Marcus was scheduled to appear as a celebrity bachelor. "You understand, right?" he'd asked, not quite meeting her eyes. "The show's producers are offering a 3-picture deal if I play along. It could secure our future." Sarah attended her ceremony alone, wearing a midnight blue gown that concealed her wedding ring's chain. The industry veterans who filled the ballroom had no idea that the woman they were honoring was also Hollywood's most eligible bachelor's secret wife. As she approached the podium to accept her award, her heel caught on the stage steps. She stumbled slightly, and the chain around her neck snapped. Time seemed to slow as her wedding ring rolled across the stage, catching the spotlight and sending prismatic reflections dancing across the ceiling. The sapphire spun to a stop at the edge of the stage, a small but defining moment of public exposure that thankfully went unrecognized by the audience. Only Sarah understood its significance. Her marriage, like the ring, was on display, but unacknowledged. Later that night, as she sat alone in their sprawling Bel Air mansion watching Marcus flirt with contestants on national television, something inside her shifted. She opened her laptop and began researching divorce lawyers, her fingers hesitating over the keyboard before typing the first query. The final straw came during the Dynasty of Dreams premiere. Sarah had spent months helping Marcus prepare for this role, staying up late running lines, offering insights into his character's motivations, even rewriting crucial scenes that weren't working. The film was as much her creation as it was his, though no one would ever know. Standing in the wings during the premiere's after-party, Sarah watched Marcus give his speech. He thanked his co-stars, his director, his agent, even his high school drama teacher. But when he came to My Amazing Team, she was just another nameless face in the crowd. Victoria Lane stood beside him, their fingers intertwined in a way that didn't look entirely staged. In that moment, Sarah realized she'd helped build a prison of silence, and she held the only key. Her phone felt heavy in her clutch, the divorce lawyer's contact information saved, but not yet dialed. As the audience applauded Marcus's speech, Sarah slipped out of the party unnoticed, a skill she'd mastered too well. In her car, she finally removed the broken chain from her neck, placing her wedding ring in a small velvet box. It was time to write her own ending to this Hollywood story. Instead of confronting Marcus, Sarah channeled her pain into action. The idea for authentic artists management came to her during a particularly heated discussion with Lily Chen, the 12-year-old actress from Marcus's latest film. She'd found the girl crying in her trailer after a producer had pressured her to lie about her age to seem more marketable. "They want me to say I'm 9, Lily had confided, clutching her script pages. "They said nobody wants to watch a tween when they can watch a child prodigy." The familiar taste of deception made Sarah's stomach turn. She'd spent 3 years managing lies, and here was their bitter fruit, an industry that treated truth as an inconvenience. That night, Hollywood imploded on a sunny Tuesday morning when Alexandra Mills, secret wife of superstar James Harrison, was found unconscious in their Malibu home. Her viral suicide note, posted automatically to social media after the attempt, shed light on the dark reality of being entertainment's best-kept secret. 3 years of watching him love others for cameras, she wrote. 3 years of being called his assistant, his friend, his colleague, everything but what I am, his wife. Sarah's phone buzzed continuously as the story broke. Her clients called in panic, seeking reassurance that they'd never have to hide their relationships. But it was the message from Marcus that made her hands shake. "Are you watching the news? Call me." She didn't call. Instead, she watched as the industry's carefully constructed house of cards began to collapse. Alexandra Mills survived, but her story opened floodgates that had been straining for years. #HollywoodSecrets started trending, with industry insiders sharing their own stories of forced deception. A popular actress revealed she'd been hiding her children for a decade. A leading man admitted to maintaining a fake relationship while his real partner worked as his driver. Marcus's publicist called 17 times that day. His upcoming film, Truth's Edge, had been marketed around his image as Hollywood's most genuine leading man. The irony was almost too perfect. He played a whistleblower exposing corruption in the tech industry. The tagline, "Some truths can't stay hidden," now felt like a premonition. Sarah watched from her office as Marcus attended emergency meetings with studio executives. Through her industry contacts, she learned that test audiences for Truth's Edge were responding strongly to themes of authenticity and courage. The studio was doubling down on the genuine angle in their marketing, planning to position Marcus as the face of Hollywood's new era of transparency. "Your husband's in trouble," Rebecca Torres said during their weekly meeting, not knowing how deep that truth ran. The industry's shifting, and his perfect bachelor image suddenly feels like yesterday's news. Sarah kept her face neutral, but her hand instinctively went to her neck, where her wedding ring used to hang. The pressure mounted as more stories emerged. A group of former child stars formed an advocacy group, speaking out against the industry's culture of deception. Major studios began releasing their artists from morality clauses that had forced them to hide marriages, children, and personal relationships. A new generation of stars was rising, building their brands on radical honesty. Marcus's desperation became evident in his increasingly frantic messages. "We need to talk about our options," one text read. "The studio's pushing for more authenticity. Maybe it's time." Sarah noted the word choice. Options, not truth. Time, not overdue. Even now, he saw their marriage as a marketing strategy to be deployed at the right moment. The breaking point came during a private screening of Truth's Edge. Sarah attended at the studio's request. Her professional expertise needed to help navigate the film's release in this new climate. She sat in the back row, watching Marcus's character deliver an impassioned speech about the cost of living a lie. "Every truth we bury plants a seed of destruction," his character declared. "Eventually, it grows into something we can't control." The studio executives nodded approvingly, seeing dollar signs in his performance. They didn't notice how Marcus's hands trembled during the scene, how his eyes kept darting to where Sarah sat in the shadows. After the screening, Sarah overheard two junior executives discussing marketing strategies. "We need to lean into his personal life," one said. "Show everyone he's not just playing a truth teller, he is one." The other nodded enthusiastically. "His bachelor image is gold, pure, honest, available. Everything the public wants right now." Sarah slipped out of the screening room, the divorce papers in her office drawer weighing heavily on her mind. In trying to protect their love from the public eye, they killed it in the dark. Now, as Hollywood rushed to embrace authenticity, she finally understood. Sometimes the greatest act of truth-telling is knowing when to end the performance. The Academy Awards buzzed with an electric tension that even veterans of the ceremony could feel. Marcus Sterling, nominated for Best Actor for Truth's Edge, sat in the front row, his carefully styled appearance betraying no hint of the turmoil beneath. Sarah watched the live feed from her office, surrounded by stacks of contracts and client files, her divorce papers hidden in the bottom drawer of her desk. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on her team. Their latest marketing campaign for an up-and-coming actress, "Your Truth, Your Time," played on a digital billboard visible from Sarah's window, its message now feeling oddly prophetic. Her assistant, Kate, had tried to convince her to attend the ceremony, not knowing the real reason Sarah chose to stay away. And the Oscar goes to. The presenter's pause seemed to stretch for an eternity. Marcus Sterling, for Truth's Edge. The audience erupted in applause as Marcus made his way to the stage, his practiced smile perfect for the cameras. Sarah's phone immediately began buzzing with congratulatory messages from industry contacts who assumed she'd be celebrating her client's victory. If they only knew. Marcus reached the podium, gripping the golden statue with trembling hands. Later, entertainment blogs would analyze this moment frame by frame, trying to pinpoint the exact second when Hollywood's most eligible bachelor decided to rewrite his story. This film, he began, his voice catching slightly, is about the cost of secrets, about the weight of unspoken truths. He paused, and Sarah saw something shift in his expression. And I stand here tonight carrying my own truth, one I've hidden for far too long. In her office, Sarah's breath caught. She recognized that look. She'd seen it the night he proposed, when he'd been unable to contain his joy. But now it felt different, calculated, as if he'd rehearsed this vulnerability. 3 years ago, Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger. I married the most extraordinary woman I've ever known. We kept it private, telling ourselves it was to protect our love from the spotlight. He swallowed hard. Sarah Chen isn't just my personal assistant. She's my wife, my rock, my secret keeper. She's the reason I'm standing here today. The audience gasped collectively. Cameras swung wildly, searching for Sarah in the crowd. Social media exploded. Sarah's phone crashed from the influx of messages. On her desk, an entertainment news alert flashed. Breaking. Hollywood's most eligible bachelor reveals secret marriage. Sarah. Marcus's voice cracked with emotion that only she could recognize as partially rehearsed. You've stood in the shadows for too long. You've orchestrated my success while hiding your own light. Tonight, I want the world to know the truth. Every award I've won, every role I've landed, every success I've achieved, it all belongs to us both. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Celebrities wiped away tears. Twitter erupted with hashtags. Hashtag Sarah Marcus, hashtag Hollywood Love Story, hashtag The Real Truth. Entertainment websites scrambled to piece together their history, digging up old photos from the Vancouver film set where they'd met. In her office, Sarah sat motionless, watching her private life become public spectacle. Her assistant burst in with tears in her eyes, clutching her phone. Sarah, why didn't you tell me? This is beautiful. But Sarah saw what others couldn't. The timing of his confession, riding the wave of Hollywood's authenticity movement. The perfect narrative arc of his speech. The way he turned their secret into a love story that would boost his career just as his eligible bachelor image was becoming a liability. Her phone lit up with a message from Marcus. I did it, love. No more hiding. Meet me at the Vanity Fair party. It's time to show the world our truth. Sarah's hand moved to her desk drawer, where the divorce papers waited. In the end, Marcus had done what he'd always done. Turned their life into a performance. But this time, she wasn't going to play her assigned role. Tomorrow's headlines would carry a very different story. Sarah chose the morning after the Oscars for their final scene together. She arrived at their Bel Air mansion wearing her wedding dress, now transformed into an elegant power suit by the same seamstress who'd altered countless red carpet gowns for Marcus's leading ladies. The cream-colored fabric, once a symbol of their secret love, now felt like armor. The house was unusually quiet. Empty champagne bottles and congratulatory flower arrangements cluttered the entrance, evidence of Marcus's private celebration after the Vanity Fair party, a party she hadn't attended despite his public invitation. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see him in the garden, practicing his lines for the upcoming morning show circuit. I've loved her from the moment we met, he rehearsed, testing different inflections. Keeping our marriage private was the biggest mistake of my life. He paused, frowning. No, too harsh. Was a choice we made to protect something precious. He tried again. Was a beautiful secret we shared. Was a lie that served your career. Sarah's voice cut through his rehearsal. She stood in the garden doorway, the morning sun casting her shadow long across the manicured lawn. Marcus turned, his face lighting up with the same practiced warmth he'd shown on countless red carpets. Sarah, I've been trying to reach you all night. Did you see? The response is incredible. Every major network wants our first interview together. People are calling it the greatest love story in Hollywood. Sarah placed her leather portfolio on the garden table, next to his Oscar statue. The gold figure seemed to watch them with detached interest. You always did know how to tell a compelling story, Marcus. The publicity team thinks we should do the first interview with Ellen, he continued, excitement making him miss the edge in her voice. They want to position us as the couple that changed Hollywood, the ones who proved love is more powerful than image. We could inspire so many people. Like Alexandra Mills? Sarah's words stopped him cold. The woman who almost died because her husband's image was more important than her existence. That's different, Marcus protested, finally noticing her attire. Why are you wearing? Is that your wedding dress? I had it remade. Sarah opened her portfolio. It seemed fitting to wear it one last time. For the final scene. Final scene. His actor's composure slipped. What are you talking about? You know, I spent last night watching your Oscar speech on repeat. Sarah's voice remained steady, analyzing it like I used to analyze your scripts. The perfect pause before the revelation, the calculated crack in your voice, the way you turned our marriage into a plot twist. She pulled out the divorce papers. You performed it beautifully, but I'm done being your best-kept secret or your career-saving headline. Sarah, please. Marcus stepped forward, real fear replacing his practiced charm. Everything I said last night was true. I love you. I'm ready to show the world. No, Marcus. You're ready to use our story to rebrand yourself as Hollywood's honest man. There's a difference. She placed the papers next to his Oscar. You should appreciate the timing. Just think of the headlines. The day after his heartfelt confession, Marcus Sterling's wife files for divorce. It's the kind of plot twist your audiences love. This isn't a movie, Sarah. Exactly. She removed her wedding ring, the one she put back on for this moment, and placed it beside the papers. That's what I've been trying to tell you for 3 years. Our marriage stopped being real the moment you decided it worked better as a secret. I just took longer to realize I was playing a role. His face crumpled, and for a moment, Sarah saw the man she'd fallen in love with in Vancouver, the one who cared more about truth than appearance. But then his features smoothed, and she knew he was already thinking about how to spin this story. 1 year later, Sarah's company had become Hollywood's worst-kept secret, a sanctuary for artists fighting to maintain their authenticity in an industry built on illusion. Her office, once a quiet refuge in Silver Lake, now occupied the entire 5th floor of a renovated Art Deco building in Los Feliz, its walls adorned with framed headlines marking the industry's transformation. Authentic Artists Management leads Hollywood's truth revolution. The divorce had made headlines for exactly 3 weeks. Marcus's publicity team had spun it masterfully. Sometimes love means letting go. He played the role of the heartbroken husband perfectly, garnering sympathy and another Oscar nomination for a film about lost love. Sarah had declined all interview requests, letting her work speak for itself. On this particular evening, Sarah stood at her office window, watching the sunset paint the Hollywood sign in shades of gold. Her newest client, an A-list actor who'd recently come out as transgender, had just landed a groundbreaking role that would change industry casting forever. On her desk sat a handwritten thank you note. You taught me that my truth is my greatest asset. The governor's ball was in full swing across town. She could see the lights from her window. She hadn't planned to attend, but a last-minute call from Lily Chen, now 15 and starring in her own successful web series about teen activism, had changed her mind. You have to come, Lily had insisted. I'm presenting the Visionary Award, and I need my favorite mentor there. Sarah chose a midnight blue gown for the evening, adorned with constellations that caught the light as she moved. A custom piece from a designer who'd fled another management company's demands to hide her progressive politics. Around her neck, she wore a new necklace, a delicate silver key, symbolizing the freedom she'd found in unlocking her own truth. The ballroom hummed with energy when she arrived. Industry veterans who'd once known her only as Marcus Sterling's assistant now made way for her, respect evident in their greetings. Her client list had become a who's who of Hollywood's new guard, artists who refused to compromise their authenticity for fame. She spotted Marcus across the room, still handsome, still commanding attention. His latest film had broken box office records, and rumors swirled about his relationship with a French actress who proudly posted their photos on social media. When their eyes met, he nodded, a gesture that acknowledged both their shared past and their separate peace. Sarah Chen, a young production assistant, approached, clutching a tablet. There's someone who'd like to meet you. Alexandra Mills, the woman who'd inadvertently sparked Hollywood's authenticity revolution, stood in a quiet corner, looking stronger than the tabloid photos from a year ago would suggest. "Your work inspired me to start my own foundation," Alexandra said, gripping Sarah's hand. "We help industry professionals find the courage to live their truth." Before Sarah could respond, Lily took the stage. The teenager commanded the room with a presence beyond her years. "Tonight's Visionary Award goes to someone who taught me that success never has to come at the cost of your soul," Lily began. "Someone who transformed Hollywood not through scandal or sensation, but through unwavering commitment to authenticity." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes as Lily continued. "Sarah Chen showed me that our stories matter most when they're true. That sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply be ourselves." As she walked to the stage, Sarah caught her reflection in a gilded mirror. The woman who stared back wasn't Marcus Sterling's secret wife or the industry's hidden fixer. She was simply Sarah Chen, finally playing her own leading role. The award felt warm in her hands as she faced the audience. "A year ago, someone told me our industry runs on beautiful lies," she began. "Today, I stand before you with a different truth. Authenticity isn't just an option in Hollywood anymore. It's the only sustainable path forward." In the front row, a young actress wiped away tears, her own wedding ring displayed proudly on her finger, and Sarah knew that every step of her journey, even the painful ones, had led her exactly where she needed to be, into her own spotlight, on her own terms.